Hi everyone and welcome to Beyond Insights. Today I'm really excited to have Karind Ori, a tech entrepreneur and cloud strategist who believes that cloud isn't just tech, it's a business model. From his early days as a chartered accountant at Deloitte to co-founding an AI startup, CarScan, and modern systems integrator, 1X, Karind has helped businesses rethink how they use cloud to innovate, scale, and compete globally. Now part of IQ Business, he's on a mission to help companies unlock the real value by aligning cloud strategy with business goals. So welcome and thank you for joining us. Really excited to have you here. So can you get us started, but maybe just giving us a bit more background about yourself? I gave a bit of an intro, but maybe a bit from your side.
Sure, perfect, yeah. So I think it's quite interesting because being on the podcast and looking at Sift as well, right, a tech startup but really focused on accounting or accountants from a product perspective. My background's quite similar. Like you said, I started at my career at Deloitte and went the whole CA route, stayed at Deloitte Digital a bit. And after that, went into the startup space with CarScan, exited CarScan, spent some time at EOH and a few other companies along the way. Before in 2020, helping co-found +1X. We started with 4 people and we grew to about 400 in about 4.5 years.
Wow.
And and now essentially we've merged with IQ Business. So collectively a digital integrator, part of Roynet, which is a listed company in the JSE.
Okay, amazing. Such a cool journey. And all starting with accounting. It's such a good space to start.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned cloud and maybe for our users, what is cloud? It's not just the things in the sky. So can you set the scene and give us background on what cloud actually is?
Sure, yeah. The easiest way, the simplest way I like explaining cloud is it's using someone else's computer. Now, if I just probably leave it there, you'd be like, okay, what the hell does that mean? But maybe just some context or background on cloud. Cloud technology or cloud itself is actually powered by technology called virtualization. Okay, so if you look at cloud, the best way I'd like to think about it is if you look at electricity, right, prepaid electricity, Eskom manufactures the electricity for us and then distributes it. You probably then purchase whatever you need, 1,000 Rand of electricity, and you use it for whatever you might need. You might boil a kettle to make a cup of tea. You might make a cup of coffee. You do whatever you'd like with it. But essentially, you're not manufacturing the electricity. Eskom is. In the similar way, cloud is a pooling together of resources by some provider. The big providers we know right now, the US-based providers, Microsoft and AWS, Amazon Web Services. And they pull together these resources, these physical servers and storage arrays and networks, and they rent out the virtual resources to consumers, wherever that might be. So just looping back to virtualization, and I don't want to get into the technicalities of this because we obviously have a time limit on this podcast. But virtualization technology was probably started in the 60s. And in its simplest form, what it is think of a physical server. It has an operating system like Windows, like your PC. What virtualization does is it abstracts that physical piece of hardware, your computer, and it's using software called a hypervisor, creates mini computers on top of that. So you could have 10 mini computers, obviously constrained by the resources in that piece of hardware or in that server, but those 10 could have their own operating systems. Some could have Linux operating systems. Some could have Windows operating systems. They're independent, they're segregated, and they're separate from each other. So that technology enabled companies to be more efficient, where they didn't need to buy multiple servers just to put an operating system on. They could effectively fragment those physical servers with independent operating systems, and that was really the one key component of cloud. Fast forward 2010, Microsoft came into the market with Microsoft Azure. Amazon came into the market with Amazon Web Services. They started building data centers across the globe and filling these data centers with servers, networks, and storage arrays. And they started renting out the virtual resources to users all over the world. And that's really how cloud became mainstream.
Okay, amazing. I love how you simplify it from this thing, not as simple as me just saying clouds in the sky, but it'll do. But no, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we've said, like previously, I think you mentioned as like cloud optimization is a pain point, but also like a buzzword. It's like everyone is talking about the cloud. So what do most people get wrong about like cloud strategy and what cloud means for their business, and not just kind of a technology project? Because obviously it impacts business and it's powerful.
Absolutely. I think it all comes back to, if you understand cloud in the electricity concept I use as a business model, when you start with defining a cloud strategy or any technology strategy for that matter, you've got to get back down to your business model. So a very simple example, if we look at Sift, what is Sift's business model? So is technology driving Sift or is it enabling Sift? Sift is a cloud-based software as a service tool, and it needs technology to distribute its application to its users across the world, in the US, in Europe. And what cloud does for Sift is it enables them to put these application instances in data centers in the US, in Europe, which means it's closer to the user. There's better performance. There isn't any latency because you can't afford that, right? And cloud, therefore, is a driver in the Sift business model. Now, if I look at another example, if we look at manufacturing, and let's look at a manufacturer that manufactures widgets. The business model of that manufacturer is to take raw materials and convert them into finished goods, being these widgets. So is technology a critical component in that manufacturing process? Potentially, but do they need to distribute it worldwide? Are they application focused? They're not. They're taking raw materials and they're creating finished goods. So in that case, technology enables the business. Probably the most critical application in that manufacturing organization would be its ERP system, its financial accounting system for standard costing and activity-based costing. Some of the things I remember.
From varsity.
Yes, exactly.
You studied hard.
That I've never used. And that's really probably the most critical piece of technology. It would be serving their financial team that would probably be headquartered somewhere locally. But that's about it. So does that business need to put something in the cloud? Probably not in a global cloud, probably in a local cloud. So technology in that sense is seen as an enabler to that business. Similarly, when you understand that and you start with your business model, you're able to understand and identify the right cloud strategy to take, opposed to starting with the technology. We live in a world right now that is filled with information. We're inundated with information, and it's very difficult to sift through what's fact versus fiction. There's a lot of hype. But if you start with that construct and that mindset, you'll be able to largely sift through the hype and focus on what's critical for your business.
I really like that angle. It's like, there's this cool technology out there, but you might not actually need it in the way you think you need it. And if you kind of get so caught up in the technology, you could actually do what's bad for your business, and it could cost too much and it could slow you down. And so kind of step one is like a normal business principle is like, what does your business need and how would you apply it to your business? So I think that's important, because especially when you don't understand something, it's like someone said, I need cloud, or, I think AI is a similar thing these days, right? Everyone's like, I must have AI, but is AI actually solving a problem that you have? So similar with cloud.
Absolutely.
This podcast is brought to you by Sift Analytics. Sift Analytics is an interactive and collaborative financial reporting tool that helps you generate beautiful reports, forecasts, and consolidations in just a few clicks. Sift helps you increase revenue, reduce costs, save time, and look professional. It is also enhanced by AI-powered insights that help you go from data to decisions in no time. Want to find out more? Visit our website at siftanalytics.com to start a 14-day free trial today.
Okay, so cloud, obviously nothing's for free in life, right? So why is cloud pricing so difficult to understand, especially for like engineers and developers? And what would kind of be the unexpected costs? Like, maybe I know nothing about cloud billing. Let's just start there.
Sure. So if we start with engineers and developers, you're part of a product team, you work with developers, their core competency, or rather their core objectives, are to focus on delivering new product features and functionalities and clearing their backlog. They're not focused on understanding, for lack of a better word, the infrastructure, because that's what cloud is. It's virtual infrastructure filled with all these services, and applications are built on top of that. They're not focused on understanding the financial models on how these infrastructure models work. And if you look at the big hyperscalers, let's look at AWS, or look at GCP, or look at Microsoft Azure, they've got about 300 different services.
Sure.
And each of those services are costed differently. Some are cost per second, some are costed on a monthly basis, on an hourly basis. So developers aren't really focused on that. They're focused on getting the product out. They're focused on going through their code and getting they're getting that backlog cleared. So that's kind of where the first mismatch happens, is that developers and engineers aren't necessarily KPI'd to focus on cloud or the costs associated to cloud.
Okay.
So it creates a disparity between that, and what ends up happening is they get their functionalities out. You have a wonderful app, but then from your unit costing, your cloud costs are ridiculously high. And that could hurt a business as well.
I mean, yeah, we're both accountants, right? So we know that cost is everything.
Yeah.
I think so many accounting principles, like KPIs is important, right? People are driven to do what matters. And so I'm hearing like, it probably makes sense to get some help or like some experts in that if that's not your focus, or to like reprioritize that, because yeah, it can probably take your business down, you know, if your costs are too high.
Absolutely. I think a big part of that is when you start looking at it across the organization. So you made a good point on AI right now. We've seen how AI has been democratized through GenAI platforms like ChatGPT and Gemini and DeepSeek and the others. It's enabled people that generally weren't technologists to be closer to technology because of the capabilities it brings. So you've got your legal department, your HR department, your finance department. They might not be experts in AI. Similarly, they might not be experts in cloud, but they should be asking, okay, what platforms are we using? Why are we using them? How does this impact the legal department might ask, are there any compliance jurisdictions or laws that we need to follow? The finance department might say, hey, well, listen, we're good at crunching numbers. Maybe we should be part of understanding these cloud costs. And when you start looking at it across the organization, so cross-functional or cross-divisional, that's when you really start leveraging the technology in the right way and driving the business forward.
Yeah, I don't think identifying risks and benefits, right? Like it goes back to that story, the thing at the beginning. It's like, why do we actually need cloud? Well, because it's going to probably enable or drive our business. Like, I don't know, I think back to when I studied and you had a desktop accounting software and you had to download it to your PC, and if you weren't at that PC you couldn't do anything.
Absolutely.
So cloud just makes so many things possible, like remote work, for example. Like all of a sudden it can have COVID, I think, made it skyrocket. So there's definitely benefits, but everyone kind of needs to get involved to understand a little bit, to kind of look at the risks and the costs and all of those things.
Yes, spot on.
Okay, cool. I'm learning things here. So I think there is something called cloud reviews, right?
That's right.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about those and what a good cloud review process would look like?
Sure. So we've probably, if you're a developer out there or you run a product team, wherever you might be, if you've been part of building an application, you would have heard of code reviews.
Yes.
And the purpose of code reviews really is when a change or a new function is added, the entire development team or product team gets together and they go through that change. So there's shared learning or shared knowledge, and that helps with just spreading the knowledge across the development team. And as well, there's shared responsibility and accountability, because you have a developer that might be focused on a specific component, but he isn't looking at it holistically. That might affect the work stream or the workflow down the line. So there's shared accountability. And lastly, if you look at code reviews, the purpose of it is to look at quality assurance, right? So QA. And a big part of that is, how can we have more efficient code? How can we have better or well-structured code? Without getting into that detail, we do that so well when it comes to code reviews. We don't really, or most teams rather, don't do that when it comes to cloud reviews. Big organizations, the early adopters, the first movers being banks and telcos, really went mainstream with cloud in 2014, 2015. And shortly after these big migrations, closing their data centers down, they were like, great, we're saving on all this CapEx, all this capital outlay, everything's moved to another provider's data center, or the cloud as we call it now. They quickly started realizing that they might be saving CapEx, but the OpEx costs were just out of whack. And a big part of that is because they didn't understand how these cloud services are costed and the financial models behind them. And the second part is cloud reviews. So if you conduct a cloud review across the business or across the product team on a regular basis, there's shared knowledge, there's shared accountability, and there's quality control, which could help mitigate a lot of these risks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes from the auditing. Accounting's everywhere, right? Auditing principle. There's reviews, identify issues. Yeah, I think it makes sense. You just need to like take stock basically of like where your costs are going, where are those cloud costs? Are you being the most efficient with that as well? Okay. So I think you've spoken a bit about optimization, like, well, optimizing how you're using cloud. But I think you mentioned as well previously to Alex when discussing this, but that optimization isn't just about tools, but it's also about culture. So what is kind of a cloud accountability culture, and what does that really look like?
Sure. So I think if we just look at business again, we've heard that saying that culture eats a strategy for breakfast all the time. It's the same concept with technology. Tools only go so far. There isn't a silver bullet of a tool out there. So if you look at companies looking to reduce their cloud costs, there are various tools out there. But if you don't instill the culture, the actual reason or the thinking on how one runs their organization and what values one instills in their teams, in their product teams, in their divisional teams, tools aren't going to solve that. So a big part of the concept that I speak about is cloud culture. So adopting a cloud culture, right? And I think we started with the AI hype that we're in right now. We started talking about adopting AI. Companies are talking about adopting an AI-led culture. Okay. And it's the same concept with a cloud culture. So if your finance team and your legal team and your HR team start being part of these discussions and start asking questions, basic questions. They don't have to be cloud experts. They don't have to be technologists, but asking relevant questions. Why are we using this? Does this improve our product? Is this adding value to our clients, our customers? Is it making it cheaper, better, faster for them? So simple questions. It actually starts going cross-functional. And when you start doing that, you start looking at costs, cloud costs across the function. So developers shouldn't just be KPI'd on getting a feature or functionality out. They might not be completely responsible for picking certain cloud services or tools, but it should be part of their KPIs or their OKRs, whatever you like to call it, where they should consider costs. And it's exactly that, that keyword consideration before going ahead and subscribing credit card details in.
The money.
Absolute. Why?
Yeah.
Is it needed? What's the outcome of that? Is it going to really move the needle?
Yeah, agreed. Okay, no, makes sense. And I think we've touched a little bit about generative AI, earlier on, and how it's a hype now, similar to how I think cloud has been. So how should businesses think about like cost and performance of AI in the cloud and how these things kind of work together?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people or technologists that are entering the market now probably won't remember what a physical server looks like, because it's kind of, get onto one of the platforms online, put my credit card details in, and I've got access to immense compute, at my fingertips. But behind that are physical pieces of hardware, right? Servers and storage arrays and networks and those sort of things. It's all the messy stuff that we don't like to deal with, but it's there. And AI, as we know, it requires immense amount of compute, or should I say GPUs, graphic processing units. And these chips are extremely complex and to manufacture and expensive as well. They're also high in demand right now because everyone wants them, everyone needs them, right? Who can build the biggest data center? So high demand, as we know, low supply, cost.
Counting again and ecos.
Right.
All coming back to that,
absolutely are the basics. Costs start going, or the price goes up. So if we look at some of the platforms available that offer these, call it AI-led services, where you could build your own LLMs, etc., on top of them. AWS have a few like SageMaker. There's a great local product called Cerebrium, a startup that actually went through a round of funding recently. Fantastic, and they offer serverless-based kind of AI infrastructure where developers don't have to set all of that up.
Okay.
You can just start building and training your LLMs on top of that.
Cool.
But that's really expensive.
Yeah.
So where we are right now is probably initially where the cloud journey was 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
And with the high price, that's kind of driven up AI-based infrastructure right now. So I think, again, it comes down to, are there other options out there? Do I want to go through the whole process of training my own Gen AI agent? Or can I get a software as a service type tool actually that's available?
Okay. Yeah. No, I think it comes back down to costing. Guys, it's accounting everywhere. But no, I think some really interesting principles I've learned. It's like actually just go and make sure that what you're getting is not because of hype, it's because of need. Go and evaluate the cost, do a review, make sure everyone in your team has the right culture and they're thinking about these things, even if it's not their main job. Like they need to know the risks of the business.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think I have some rapid fire questions for you. On the topic, but also off the topic.
Great.
So now that we've gone through all the juicy details, first question, what's one piece of software besides Sift, we always have to say that you can't live without?
So this might sound arbitrary or random. That is probably my banking app, and I'll tell you why.
Very true.
I still remember the days where you had to go to a branch, and when you planned on going to that branch, you needed to book at least 2 to 3 hours of your day.
Oh, 100%.
And if you take it back further, when you went with your parents to one of these branches, it was probably half the day spent there. I can't imagine doing that anymore.
No. That's such a good one. Like me too. I hate going to any form of branch or anything. So yeah, I also can't live without that one. Okay, that's a good app. What is the best book that you've read recently?
Recently I've read I think it's a fantastic book. It's called The Art of Resilience by Ross Edgley, and he is an ultra athlete. He essentially swam around Great Britain, 1,760 miles across 5 or 6 months, and just his grit and tenacity and mindset, a lot of those physical principles that he has applied to do this outlandish act can be applied to business as well, in my opinion.
Okay. No, I think it's always cool to get lessons, and then you don't actually have to do the outlandish swimming. You can just learn the lesson. So that sounds good. Okay, cool. And what is the most valuable lesson that you've learned about building a business? Because you've built actually a few of them. Yeah,
I think the most important thing that I've learned, and I'm still learning, is you can't build a business alone. You need a group of people, of core people, to come with you. And let me qualify that statement. You might be able to found or establish a business, but to build one, you need a team of like-minded individuals. Get the right people on the bus and put them on the right seats, as Jim Collins says in his book, From Good to Great. And with that, you'll be able to build and scale a business successfully.
Okay, no, it's a cool one. I like it. Very, very cool. And then we've discussed a lot of things about cloud. I've learned a lot, lots of things to think about for business owners as well, not just tech people. But if there's one thing that you want listeners to take away from today's podcast, what would that be?
Form your own opinions. We started with it. We see it now. I think there's not a day that goes by where I feel like I'm far behind, because there's so much information out there, especially in the tech world and in all industries. There's a sense of anxiety in terms of what Gen AI and the future of AI holds. And through all the hype, there's a lot of fiction. There's a lot of information that you've got to sift through. And it's so easy to just go based on what someone said or looking at what the crowd does, your competitors do. But if you actually just take some time to apply yourself, you don't need to be an expert in that field, but by forming your own opinion, it'll force you to ask the right questions. It'll force you to do a bit of research. It'll force you to network with other like-minded people, experts in that field. But at least when you form your own opinion, it's something that matters to you versus just going on all the hype out there. And I think it will reduce your risk a lot to making some of those decisions.
No, I think that's really important, and that definitely stuck out to me. It's often we don't think we know enough, like, oh, I'm an accountant, I don't know about cloud.
Yes.
I must get it because every big business seems to be getting it. Like, no, go and assess if it's needed, ask the questions, like find the people that can tell you, what makes sense, and then don't just go because everyone's saying it. I think that's something I've experienced recently with AI as well. And so I think, that's like a super valuable lesson.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not just with cloud or AI, like just in general. Like,
In general, right?
it's okay to ask questions and make sure you understand.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I learned a lot. I think there's a lot of really good lessons for our listeners as well, to make sure that, they know what cloud is, they know how it would actually be valuable to their business, and a bit about how it works so they can start thinking about those things. So I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the podcast in this lovely studios and this amazing office as well.
Yeah, we're very spoiled, yeah. No, it's been great to have you, and I hope we'll see everyone else on the next episode as well. So thank you. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast.
Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now.
And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast.
That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.